What's more important, the journey or the destination? Actually, it's the company. Journey to Well, the podcast, was birthed with the intention to cultivate relationships. You can expect a plethora of conversations on nervous system regulation, breathwork, human design and astrology, cycle alignment, energy and spirituality, and honestly, so much more. But the heart of this community is to witness the journey back home to ourselves, rediscovering our innate power within. I couldn't be more honored to take this journey with you. Be well, my friend, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Journey to Well, the podcast. My name is Hannah. Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics. We're talking about grief, which is an interesting thing to say because who likes talking about grief? But I think Kelly and I were chatting a while ago about why I feel it's important to talk about things that we don't really talk about. And grief is one of those things that we don't talk about often. And we don't talk about in a more full picture, right? Like we talk about grief when somebody has died and you're allowed to grieve. I'll put that in quotes, like you're allowed to grieve when someone died. But you're not necessarily allowed to grieve other things. And maybe that's a situation that you thought that you're going to be in, like being a mom and you're not able to have kids, or living somewhere and then for whatever reason you're not able to move to your dream location or something like that. So I'm very excited to talk about grief. Kelly has an amazing story that I would love for you to share. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. It's wonderful to have your energy here, and I'm very excited for this conversation. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, Kelly Edmondson. Who is Kelly?
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about what really has become one of my favorite things to discuss too. So we're aligned there.
Yeah.
So I'm Kelly Edmondson. I'm based in Orlando, Florida. And I am a nurse by background. So I have really, for 25 years, which sounds crazy to say, have cared for people in their most vulnerable moments. And so I have seen the most beautiful things, people ringing the bell because they've had their last cancer treatment, and people giving birth to babies and walking out with their dreams. And I've held the hands of dying patients and their families for decades. And so I am honored to be a part of what is really one of the nation's most trusted profession, 24 years running.
Wow.
It's a space that I've loved, and it's been an honor to serve that way.
Yeah.
In 2023, things shifted a bit for me. I went from being the nurse in the room to the mom receiving the news when my oldest son passed away suddenly from epilepsy. And so that really started a journey where I decided to start caring for people another way. I had cared so much for their bodies, and a lot of the emotional work that happens with healing, but began to learn that it's soul work to care for people who are in grief. And so I've become a certified grief counselor and spend a lot of time with people talking about loss and processing it and helping them understand that it's devastating. A loss of any kind, right? As you referenced, a divorce, a loss of a job. And you're right, so many people have their identity built into the work that they do. Loss of meaningful friendships or loss of a loved one. All of them are life shifting, but they reshape you. They don't have to limit you. And so we spend time talking about that.
It's such a complex topic, I would say, because a lot of the conversations that I have, even just with friends, or just not random people, we don't really randomly talk about grief, but people coming on the podcast or friends or family, is you think that you kind of can get over it at some point. And I know that that's honestly becoming, I think, more talked about is that grief is very cyclical and like it's circular. So you kind of heal in one way and then something comes up and you have a memory or you go to a place where you used to go to with this person, or you see a video of like that dream location that you wanted to move to. But what I'm curious about what your experience is with the kind of cyclical nature of grief and how that personally has come up with you. Is it something that, yeah, what do you have to say, I guess, just about like do we ever get over it? Like,
Yeah.
do you ever heal? I think healing is a huge word, right? Like, oh, I want to be healed, but do you ever heal from grief?
Yeah. It's a great question. My son was a huge Drake fan.
Okay.
Okay. And so there's a particular song that he loved. It's called Come Through. If that song comes on in the radio right now, I can both laugh and tear up at the same time because I see
Yeah.
his face and I see him dancing and singing, and it just brings me. I remember riding in the car with him. He was driving, that came on, and I had to like correct him because he's like, "We're going off the road, kid." And I can live in that moment if that song comes on. And
Mm,
sometimes it catches me, it makes me really happy. And sometimes it makes me long for him.
mm,
And sometimes it does both at the same
mm,
time, right? And so, I always tell people 3 weeks is not the same as 3 months, which
mm.
isn't the same as 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Where you are on the journey changes. But at the end of the day, it's been 3.5 years and Darius is still gone.
Mm,
My son is still gone. I still can't call him.
mm,
I still will never spend Mother's Day or Christmas with him again.
mm,
But what I have learned is I've learned how to manage through that.
mm,
And so one of the best examples I can get is his birthday is Christmas Day.
mm.
He was
Wow.
born 12/25/94. And so it's Christmas Day. And so it is an all-out party, right? Around the world, it's a festival
Yeah.
at the time of his birthday. And that first year, I thought, how can I do Christmas? Because everyone's happy and they deserve to be. They
Yeah.
deserve to be in joy, and it's a celebratory time. It's a sacred time. And so I began planning months ahead of time, and we decided to take a trip
Mm,
for Christmas. And we went to the Virgin Islands,
mm.
and I took some of his ashes with me in an effort to do what he wanted to do, which was see the world. And so we took his ashes with us. And so leading up to this, as you know, the anticipation of a trip, there's joy in that, right? There's
Yeah.
excitement, there's joy, which helped carry some of the pain. But it was a high anxiety time. But that day, I planned ceremonies around celebrating his life
Hmm.
on Christmas Day in a way that brought me a lot of peace. And so we did that. And at the end of the trip, I felt so um, full. I felt full. I felt like I acknowledged him. I felt like we celebrated him. And I felt like we created a new ritual around what
Mm.
was going to be this very painful time. And so we've carried that forward, and it is now our new holiday tradition.
Oh.
It has been. And so my point in that story is that it never goes away, doesn't it? Never goes
Yeah.
away. But over time, you begin to develop mechanisms that help you to be able to think about the love and the light that
Mm.
existed while also acknowledging the loss that will always be. And when you can find a way to place both of those in a container and balance them, um, you can move forward through life without leaving somebody behind, which is what none of us want to do. The memories matter. Remembrance is healing over time.
Wow. Remembrance is healing over time. It's interesting. Yeah. And I think we talked about this when we first chatted. I don't have a lot of experience with loss, like somebody leaving this world. My grandfather died, and my grandparents have died. Not all of them, but most of them. And that's been difficult, but I also wasn't very, very close with them. I'm still so thankful that my parents are still here. And so I don't have a lot of experience with loss in that capacity, like you have experienced. The way that I can relate really to loss is the loss of like dreams and the loss of people who are still living. So I was engaged, and that loss was probably my deepest loss years ago now, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. But that was what was most difficult for me. And what was probably the hardest part in processing that is this loss of like the way that you thought your life was going, the trajectory that you thought your life was going, which I think could be relatable to losing someone too, because you thought that he would be with you, right? Probably until you passed. So that expectation almost, and then learning how to not just cope, but accept and love and be excited for this new life on a different, almost like a little bit of a different path. And that's been such an interesting journey for me. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation now. We didn't plan it, and you don't know this, but I used to live in Jersey City, right outside of New York City. And I'm actually back there right now for the week. And so it's just so interesting because I've had so much come up, and every time. And what is probably most interesting to me that I wanted to kind of bring up in relation to every year Christmas comes up, and every year, like whether he was born on Christmas or not, you would have celebrated his birthday too. And it's those moments. And for me, it's where I'm at, like my physical location. So much comes up, whether I want it to or not, of like these memories of living right outside of the city with my, at that time, fiance, and having this kind of having these really good memories, right? Because over time, I think that it softens too. Like with a breakup, I think a breakup is probably different than losing a child. Well, it's definitely different, but having these memories of like, oh, these were really good times too, not all of the difficult, painful times. But I was reading this quote this morning, and it came up, and I was like, ooh, this is perfect for the podcast that I wanted to share with you. And I'm paraphrasing because it was a whole kind of post, but what she was sharing was that grief is another part of grief, is that you're grieving the version of yourself that felt really safe and seen and held in that time. And for me, it's also like kind of the naivety, because he was like my first really serious relationship. So it's like the time before I experienced all of the heartbreak and the hurt and the pain and the struggle, and the date, the disappointing dates and all of that.
The frogs, the frogs before the prince.
Yes, all the frogs. And that's something that I've been really thinking about here, is like, and you can have both, right? Like you learn so much when you date the frogs, and you learn so much when you're going there, but also almost grieving that version of myself that was so hopeful, and like the world was really in front of me, and like, oh yeah, I'll definitely find my person. And I know that this isn't my person. Back then I knew that it wasn't my person, and I wanted it to be, and it wasn't. But the quote was just really interesting to me, because she said it's really also about grieving that version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore, that felt safe within that person. And then at the end, she was also sharing, but the work is discovering that safety and that home within yourself without having that person, despite not having that person, and it's always within you. So yeah, I'm wondering how you can relate to that and how you can relate that to people who have passed, because I can't relate in that way necessarily.
Anna, I love that so much. I love that. And I say this is what I am different, right? I
Mm,
am not, I am like Kelly before and Kelly after.
yeah.
And I just am. And so some ways for me that manifests as I am, people who know me well will call me an uber extrovert. I think that was true before. I think I was an uber extrovert before.
Hmm.
And I'm more reserved than I used to be. I still
Hmm.
enjoy people and I still enjoy, but there's a part of me still, and I've done the work. I've leaned in. I've done all, but there's a part of me still that just feels um, a gap.
Hmm.
There's a gap that exists, right?
Hmm.
There's a gap that shows up when I see the wedding pictures of my son's friends.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
Right. When they're beginning to start, I mean, they're young adults, they're beginning to start families and have children. And, I will never have that kid. And I am happy for them. And I
Yeah.
have joy looking at that. And there's also a longing for what will never be.
Wow.
And it just shifts you a bit. It also changes priorities for you. And so
Mm,
there's a carefreeness when you haven't had a significant loss, because like you, my parents are still alive. They're in their early 70s, healthy.
wow.
Um, my grandparents are gone, but they died in their 90s with
Mhm.
full lives, and they were ready to
Yeah.
go. And so this is the first disruptive loss I've really had in my life. And so, um, I, my priorities have shifted though, because what it teaches you is what's important and totally what's not.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a frivolousness of living that I don't have anymore.
Hmm.
And so there are conversations that I don't let not happen. Right. There are things that I must say. Last night, for some reason, I just felt compelled to call my mom, and it was late. It was late. It was close to 11. And I just felt the need to call her and check in. Right. I just did.
Mm.
And she was fine. She went to the doctor and had dilated eyes, and she was concerned because it took hours for her vision to return. And
Oh,
so,
how annoying.
we just talked through that, but something in me just felt like mom needed to hear from me, and
Yeah.
I needed to hear from her before I went to sleep. And
Mm.
those are things that 4 years ago I may not have been as in tune to. Like, it's late,
Wow.
I'll call her tomorrow. But I don't miss opportunities to say the thing, to say I love you, to say to a friend, I appreciate how you're there for me. You matter to me.
Yeah.
To take the trip. Our 10-year anniversary was last week, and we weren't going to do anything. And I'm like, 10 years is a big deal.
That
So
is.
I booked a trip to the Bahamas, and we left 48 hours later.
Oh my God, Kelly. Oh, that's
Right?
so good
And
though.
I'm so glad we went. It was
Wow.
amazing. It
Yeah.
was amazing. It
Yeah.
was exactly what we needed, where we needed it, how we needed it. Like, the universe takes care of you if you listen.
Yeah.
And I am much more in tune to that. And that's different for me.
Mhm.
That idea that being intentional, being present, showing up, taking the flight back to Ohio for Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving matters. And
Yeah.
it's a time of family and connection. Even if I'm tired, even if there's things I could do, you make space for the things that matter the most. And
Mm.
so it has changed me. And those are good things. I'm
Mm.
happy but they are rooted in loss. They're rooted in
Mm.
loss. And so I think that any significant loss changes you. How you allow it to manifest becomes a choice over time. Right. In the initial
Mm.
phases, I don't think we have a lot. There's anger, there's sadness, there's confusion, all of those things happen in the immediate loss of Eddie, right? You've lost a job. There's
Yeah.
anger. There's what's next. There's confusion. You've lost a relationship. We've all faced that. But with any loss, you have that. And then there comes a point where you have to decide what's next, what's important. So Hannah was a couple, and now Hannah's Hannah.
Yeah.
And so there's a time that you grieve Hannah not being a couple. And then there's a time that you decide who's Hannah going to be going forward. And I am Darius's mom. Our relationship's different. How I interact with him, how I can engage that relationship looks very different today than it did January 1st of 2023. But what I do with that has become my choice. And so it's intentional. It is not accidental, right? You don't just suddenly become someone who creates a plan, but brick by brick, you build it. And for me, it's the best way to honor the love, the relationship that we had, is to do something with it.
Not to, I want to say not to let it break you. And like, even that, like, it's okay to allow it to break you, but not allow it to keep you broken.
That's right.
To stay
That's
broken.
Right.
Because these things happen. And we do, I love that you said that we have a choice of how we respond, what we do with it, how we move forward. Right. There's a quote, and it's such a popular quote, like it's something like, the biggest mistake is thinking that you have time. And just kind of talking about like thinking, like we live in this, I was watching a TV show last night, and they named the restaurant Someday because the wife that founded it, she's like, you can't live in some days. Like you can't live in that where, oh, someday we'll go to the Bahamas. Someday I'll start my own business. Someday I'll start my own podcast, whatever it is. And I'm curious how you balance that of whether someone listening has experienced significant loss or not. That's a very relatable, just kind of general idea of living in this someday. And I do agree with you deeply that when we experience some loss, that gives you a huge perspective that you're not going to get until you actually experience the loss. And it gives you this really like kind of time check of, we're only here for a very, 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 very short period of time. What are you choosing to do with your life? But I'm curious how we can balance that with the fear of that sentence of, you're only here for a short period of time. Like you better like go crazy and just do everything. And really, like, to me, that's like an over ramped up nervous system where you're living in, I have to do all of the things all of the time because I don't want to miss out. It's the difference of living in fear versus living in that contentment. How do we balance that? How do we find out if we're even living in the fear or if we're living in the settledness?
That's a great question. One of the things I tell people is, if you've had a sudden life change, and you're 2 weeks in, you want to make a sudden decision or move that you've never thought of before, now is not the time. Right? So
good advice.
Right, now's not the time, right? But if this is something that you've thought about over time, you've managed pros and cons, you've really put intentional thought into it. When I was a kid, one of the things that always helped me with this is that I was actually at church, and they passed around these circles. Okay. And on the circles were the words TUIT. Okay. So to it.
Yeah.
And the message was, this is around to it, right? And so if you have something that continues to come up and you keep saying, I'm going to get around to it, I'm going to, it's great. I was like 9 when I got this.
Wow.
If it's something that you have said, I'll get around to it more than 3 times, it's something you need to put into action.
Wow.
I had that message as a kid at 9.
Wow.
And I never forgot it. I never forgot it. And so, I think, in life in general, not even really just after loss, but just in life in general, you meet someone who's super impactful and motivational. You take a trip and suddenly, moving to Chile because I went, wow.
Yeah.
Is that a one-time thought, or is it something that, we've continued to come up with? I think any significant moves that we make require all the work that goes into planning, prioritizing, and considering pros and cons. But the reality is there are things that make your soul feel incomplete if you don't address. There are things that where your happiness lays in the bounds if you don't move forward on those. And those are the things that you should be intentional on, and not accidental in planning to move forward through prioritization. Moving to Chile's fine if you have a way to support yourself when you get there. If you have a network and a passport, right? But brick by brick, you begin building the pathway to get there.
Yeah. I like that advice of like, it doesn't have to be fast either. Like it can really be brick by brick, and that's good advice. One of your quotes, I'll quote you to you, was when we first chatted, we were talking about really turning your pain into purpose. And this is kind of going back to also what you were just saying of really you have that choice to decide what you do with what happens to you. And that is actually one of my favorite quotes. Like you don't get to choose what happens to you, but you get to choose your response to what happens to you. And that's really where all of the power lies. And that can be in a really small situation of like the barista messed up your coffee order, or it can be in this really deep and complex situation of, right, all of the examples that we're giving, like you lost your job, you lost a loved one, you went bankrupt, whatever it is, and how grief really doesn't have to define you is one of the things that you said. Expand upon that, because I have like a challenge to that, but I want you to expand upon it first.
Yeah. So, when it all happened for me, gosh, was it dark? It was dark. The immediate post loss state is full of like action, right? You're just, there's all this planning, there's logistics, the ceremony, you actually become a host, which I never thought of until it happened to me. But like, everyone's coming to the house and
wow.
You're feeding them. You're busy. You're really, really busy. And you're the center of like all this energy. And so when everyone leaves, suddenly it's like super quiet because it was like exhaustingly busy. And then it's like everyone's gone. And when that happens, you're like alone with memories and thoughts and silence. And that becomes a very stark place initially. And I had a dear friend who said to me, because at the time you start worrying about everybody's back to their life, so you start worrying about your life, right? You start going like, well, I'm a leader. Are things okay at work? Like, why are you worried about that right now? Worry about you. And then you start worrying about all the things that people send you. How do I send thank you notes back? Are you kidding me? Your kid died. A thank you note is not a priority, right? And you start worrying about all these things. And so having people in your life that check you and say, you're not ready to worry about anything but you right now is really important. And so I had that gift. and people around me who redirected me to me. And when I did that, we were headed into Mother's Day, and it was, I told my husband, I'm not participating. So you tell the kids, like, don't come over here with roses and balloons. It's not the vibe I'm
Yeah.
seeking this year. And my sister called, and I told her, I said, yeah, I just told him, tell Mason and Sydney I'm not. And he said, we're flying down. Mom, her daughter, and we're flying down, and we're coming to spend that weekend with you. And that's not really an ask. We're just coming. So, she's pretty
No.
bossy. She's pretty bossy. This middle child thing. So they come, and my daughter, my son's girlfriend, all 5 of them came and converged on me. And everybody came with memories, memorabilia, stories about Darius, just like who he was and how he showed up in the world, how he impacted them. And so instead of being a bereaved mom for Mother's Day, which was my greatest fear, right? Just the sad.
Yeah.
I got to be Darius's mom. And we just talked about the light, the love, the laughter, what he brought to us. We talked about the loss too. And we cried, but we laughed, and we cried, and we laughed, and we cried. And it was that weekend, the way that changed things for me, that ability to sit in the loss of him, but have it rooted in the love of him. It just made it so tolerable. It just made it so, it was such a beautiful weekend that I said then, I am going to figure out a way to keep his legacy alive, because hearing his name, speaking his story, telling the tale of his life actually brings so much joy back to me and the other people who loved him, right? And my biggest fear is that people forget who he is. People forget his story. And so that moment for me was a turning point, that his loss, if I could rewrite history, if I could sell a thing, if there's anything I would give up to have him back, of course I would do that. But that's not the way the life works. What I can do is keep him with me. I can keep his story alive. And so 2 months ago, I never knew you, Hannah, and now you know Darius. And you know that he brought light and love to the people who knew him. And so he's alive still, because I refuse to let him die. I refuse to let the memory of him die. And so for me, I choose to keep him alive by keeping his story fresh. And for me, that's been the way that has helped my journey towards healing accelerate, but also provide healing for other people, because you too can talk about your loss. You too can remember, the relationship that failed, but the trip to Paris that mattered, right? Those things can still bring light to your life, and it's healing.
You brought up an interesting reminder to me that I've had this conversation. I know somebody that their mom died. And one of the things that we were chatting about was, and this has also come up a lot in like breath work, my breath work certification, when I went through that training. I think a lot of times we avoid talking about, like, for you, right? Like if you and I were getting coffee, and I would have a tendency to want to avoid talking about Darius because I wouldn't want to make you sad. And I'm putting that in quotes. And in the breathwork certification, what we kind of were trained in, because when you do a breathwork journey, like you can go through a lot of emotions. And so learning to sit in that discomfort of the emotion, and like you're sharing, learning that there's always two sides. Like crying, I always say I love a good cry because you feel so free at the end. But when you're in it, you're like, fuck, I feel terrible.
That's
Like,
right.
why am I bawling my eyes out? And because you're like exposing. And then when you do that in the presence of someone else, we've all had scenarios where it wasn't a safe situation, where our nervous system didn't feel safe. And a lot of times we tell somebody that's crying, like, oh, it's okay, don't cry, don't cry. And like, oh, I'm so sorry I brought it up. Like, I didn't mean to make you cry. And when I was having this conversation with the woman that lost her mom, one of the things that she said was like, I love talking about my mom. Like I love when people ask me, like, what was the best part about her? What was your favorite part? Or what really made you smile? Like what's your favorite memory at like a Christmas time or a holiday that you look back on and smile? And maybe tears do come up, but that is also okay. And learning how to sit in the both of that, sit in the and. One of the things like I love is like living in the and, right? Like it's sad and it's cathartic, or it's painful and it grew you, and sitting in that and really like settling in it. And I love that story that you shared with your Mother's Day experience, because it is okay. It is okay to be really sad and to be like really thankful at the same time. And my question to that is that how do we as humans develop that capacity to sit with someone in something that could be like a smaller inconvenience, like a really big frustration at work? Because even in partnerships, we're like, oh, fuck, you had a bad day. All right, tell me about it. Like, whatever. Okay, can we like get through that? Or like, oh, it's okay. Like, it was just one bad day. Like, get over it. But what we're not doing is we're not witnessing. And how can we develop that capacity to witness someone and not get lost in it ourselves, but to fully witness and show up for somebody, to allow them to feel whatever they need to feel in
Yeah.
both of those emotions?
It's such a good question. And I say to people all the time, there's really what I call three ways to, it's like a three-step process, right? To be
Yeah.
present for people, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a framework I built, the presence framework, and it's 8 steps, but it's really 3 categories or pillars of things.
Okay.
The first is to regulate. And it's exactly what you said. So someone shares a story, a painful situation, something that they've got a lot of emotion around it. And like, it's your friend, it's somebody you care about. Your immediate thing is like to get in the emotion and with them, right? I want to be mad too, or I'm, or I'm sad too, or and the best way to show up to somebody is for you to be leveling for them, right? To allow them to experience the emotion, but you be the grounding force, right? And so really regulating your response thinking, instead of reacting, and being thoughtful about the words. In the case of loss, that really means, but really in all situations, not minimizing things, right? Which we tend to have statements like at least. Whatever you say after at least is not helpful in a high emotion state situation.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and we all of those things are made of good intention, but they're ill-timed.
Yeah.
And so, statements like, that must have been incredibly frustrating, or I don't have words for how that must have felt. Those types of things acknowledge and recognize the state that the person's in without minimizing them or heightening the emotion around them, right? They're witnessing statements. I'm here with you. I see you. I see where you are, right? I understand for you why this is so emotional. So that first is regulate. The second is to respond. So to do something, not react, but to respond, which means we're being thoughtful. And so in the case where you have a friend who has suffered a loss, doing something about that matters. That can be all kinds of things. You've had a friend who's lost a job. How do I show up for that person? That is calling on Thursday and saying, we're going to, I'm taking you to happy hour, right? We're going to go. That is into someone who's lost someone that's close to them. I'm coming over Saturday to do laundry, and we don't have to talk at all, right? We don't have to do a thing. I'll be there. That's sending dinner. That is showing up in a way that's meaningful for them, especially for someone that you're close to. You kind of know their life and where the gaps are. I think we too often put the burden on the person who's in trauma to tell you what to do for them. We do that all the time.
Yeah.
Let me know if there's anything that you need. I don't know what I need, right?
Yeah.
I need my husband to not have been an asshole that left. I needed, I need my son to be alive. I needed to not have this diagnosis of breast cancer, all these things. People can't tell you what they need.
Yeah.
So just respond and do something meaningful for them.
Wow.
And then the last R is to remain. And so that is, you do it more than once, right? You show up over time. In the immediacy of any trauma, any painful event, any loss, there's like crowdsourcing. People are there. People are there. And then they leave. And you're still dealing with chemo, or you're dealing with the effects of having, the body image effects of a mastectomy, or you're dealing with the loss of your mom on the second Mother's Day without her. You're dealing with the kids having a birthday and now dad's not at the party, right? Those things go on. And so be proactive. Think about things that could be triggers for your friend and just show up on those days. Show up. It doesn't have to be huge. It is a thinking of you today. It's Mother's Day. Just thinking of you guys, right? A quick text. That ongoing acknowledgement makes people feel seen and not alone. Too often we want to rush in to fix things, and life is full of traumas that you can't fix. You don't have solutions for, but being there matters so much more than you know. I say over and over again, the story about not saying anything, that absence is the loudest silence I've ever heard.
Wow.
People who didn't acknowledge, my son's dead.
Wow.
He's dead, right? I go back to work. There's people I really cared about at work who to this day have never acknowledged like this significant loss. My sister-in-law lost a baby years before my son died, like 2019. Her daughter lived 5 weeks in the NICU. And I remember seeing her later. And again, until it happens to you, you don't understand the context, right? It's sad, but you don't understand.
God, no.
And I remember seeing her and her telling me, I said, "You're back to work. How's it going?" And I remember her telling me she felt like she had a scarlet letter A on her head the first day she went back to. She walked into a room and like people just parted. They wouldn't make eye contact. They couldn't look at her. She said, "I felt this whole idea of belonging. I felt like such an outsider.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't my space anymore. These weren't my people anymore. How sad is that?" Wow. We all have to intentionally do better. If you think you're uncomfortable, imagine walking through their shoes, right?
Yeah.
And so the simple, I know this has been tough. I'm so glad to see you back, right? The simple and impact. Simple, but not simplistic.
Yeah. I like that you just said, "I'm glad to see you back," because I feel like one of my things is like, I don't want to say I'm sorry for your loss because I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that. But like, to me, it feels, I think because that's all we say, it feels not mindful. Like, I genuinely am sorry for your loss. I'm sorry you lost your son. But to say that at the beginning, I think it just feels like another sentence, like when you're going through the grocery store checkout and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" And I used to work at a grocery store, and every once in a while, that was my first job, actually, fun fact about Hannah. And it was my first job, and that's what you say when a new customer comes in and they're coming through your line. Hey, how are you doing today? And every once in a while, I would have someone that'd be like, do you really care? And like some people would say it's shitty, some people would say it like just kind of calling my attention to this routine question that we ask. And me being like so empathic, I'm like, actually, I really do care. Like, you could tell me about like, how are you generally don't just say good, tell me something. But now actually looking back, like, I wonder if I could have found a better question. Like, what's exciting going on in your life right now? Or what, tell me something that happened today. And so that simple sentence that you just said, I'm glad to see you back, that feels so much more impactful than I'm sorry for your loss. And it doesn't mean that I'm not. It's just that it feels like I shy away from saying that. But then I know in situations in my life, I haven't said anything because I don't know what to say. And it's not, it's not just like, oh, I don't know what to say, I'm not going to say any, like, I'm uncomfortable because I love being uncomfortable. But like, it's just like, I don't want to come across as not, what's the word? Yeah, like as just like very surface level. So thank you for that, because I think that that's a really powerful, like, it kind of goes back to those 3 R's of like, how are you really showing up? How are you really witnessing? And maybe it is just a different way to say, I'm sorry for your loss. How else could you say that?
Yeah. You know, the bridge of, I don't know what to say, but I'm so glad to see you back is so, right? Centers them.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? You've had this big loss, and I don't know what to do about that, but I'm glad to see you.
Yeah.
You matter, right?
Yeah.
You matter to me, which is nice. It's nice. There's still people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that ability to really to witness. That was that's all we really want, right? In life is to witness and to be witnessed by other people. And
That's exactly right.
and that not just seen, not just like passed by, but to witness something, to me, is to soak it in. Like, you witness a sunset when you're on the beach on vacation and you're
Yes, you do.
right? You witness some, girl. hopefully you witness some.
Yes.
But you witness that, like when you're just driving to work, you might see the sunrise, but like you're not really witnessing it. And to witness something and to witness a human, it is the greatest honor. And that to me is like in breath work. I really get to witness people and hold them when they're going through an emotion. And that's the only thing I can ever say is it's the greatest honor to be able to witness you, like to be able to really see you and to hold you through that emotion. And what a beautiful opportunity we have to be able to witness people that are hurting. And we're all hurting though, right? Like,
that's right.
Whether we know that their son just died or they had like a really shitty thing and it just popped back up. We're all hurting.
That's right. That sharing space, it so matters. It does, right? My sister and I used to just talk. She'd call me through the acute recovery phase, and she would just sit on the phone. And we wouldn't say a word. We would just sit.
Yeah.
And might cry a little and right, or not.
Yeah.
And she'd just sit and we say, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. That's presence.
One of my best friends, that's so funny you said that, because I was actually going to share that. One of my best friends, I think it was when I went through that breakup. I don't even remember. I think it was. And she told me, like, because she would call me and check in, and she'd be like, if you just want to go about your day on the phone with me. Because when you break up with someone living in the apartment by yourself,
Mhm.
that's so
Mhm.
uncomfortable. That's like,
Mhm.
that was my least favorite part,
Oh,
is being
yeah.
alone, like in the apartment.
Mhm.
And she's like,
Mhm.
if you just want to call me. And just her saying that, I don't even know if I did, to be honest, I don't remember, but her just saying that, like, I'll just sit with you on the phone like that. Oh, that's such a gift.
Right. It's such a gift.
Yeah.
It's so selfless,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's really the gift of like presence. It's so undervalued, underappreciated for what it
Yeah.
brings to you exactly when you need it.
Mm, mm. So I want to talk about your company, because I think that this connects maybe to like part two, your second R of timely presence. And I mean, you've said presence a few times, and that's the gift. That's probably the biggest gift that we could give someone is our time and our presence. Um, and to be able to show up and do something. So let's give the
Yeah.
listeners another
Yeah.
idea of what you can do. And I also want to know why you create. I mean, I have an
Mhm.
idea, but like, why did you
Mhm.
create this company?
Yeah. So to me, presence is the biggest thing, right? It's
Yeah.
witnessing. It's there.
Yeah.
It's their part. And so, what I've found as I lived through and began studying grief is that there's an emotional calendar to grief that's real.
Yeah.
And so, as we talked about earlier, I can be walking through the grocery store and a song come on, or I see something he used to like to eat, and this wave of emotion can come back. But the research tells us that predictably on birthdays, holidays, wedding anniversaries, right? Mother's,
Mm,
Father's Day, those things are triggers and emotionally challenging.
yeah.
And that first year, you don't know that you can live through it. I don't know that I can live through the first wedding anniversary without my spouse. I don't
Yeah.
know I can live through their birthday. You just don't know what that looks like. And so typically for most people though, everybody else has moved on. And so you are like stuck with
Yeah.
weeks of dread leading into this event, um, alone, right?
Mm,
Alone. People don't are afraid to bring it up. They
yeah.
may not even think to bring up your dad died last November. Let me call you for Father's Day. They may not. They're with their father celebrating,
Right.
right? They're with their husband. They're whatever that is. And so I wanted to create a way because people don't show up because they don't know how. It's not because they don't care.
Yeah.
And our grief system, our bereavement support system has been built around the wrong moments. It's built in the immediacy of loss. And the
Mm.
reality is, grief peaks at 3 to 6 months with another spike at a year.
Wow.
That's the research,
Yeah.
right? And so by then everyone's gone and done, and you're back at work, and people think you've returned to normal. So what we've done is made it easy for people who want to support someone they really care about through
Mm,
all of those tough moments.
mm,
We show up with gifts of presence. They're
mm,
customized, they're built on the relationship that they had with their loved one, and they come on that emotional calendar. They show up on
wow.
Mother's Day. They show up for the Christmas holiday.
Mm,
They show up on mom's birthday, right? And they come with notes of love and care from the gift giver that just says, I see you. And
mm,
remember, you are not alone.
mm,
I'm thinking of you today. And so we do that all year long. We send the gifts to the person who's grieving. We send the gift giver a reminder that says, hey, Hannah, Kelly's Kelly will be celebrating a birthday next week. The
Oh,
gift's on its way, so you can remember to check in.
wow.
And we really just wrap that person around with the wraparound love and support
Mm.
throughout that first year on the days that they need it most. And
Mm.
this was really all came down to that Mother's Day when they showed up for me when I needed them to. That I felt so seen.
Yeah.
I felt so loved. And I started doing it for people. My neighbor lost her husband 3 months after Darius died. And so we walked this journey together.
Mm.
And so for his first birthday, for their first wedding anniversary, I just left her little gifts and didn't
Yeah.
tell her it was me. And the response, she goes, somebody remembered Mike's birthday.
Oh.
Just seeing how loved she felt around it
Yeah.
let me know that it wasn't just me, it was a thing. And I started doing it for other people. And so what we're creating is really, I want to make ongoing support the standard for grief care, not the exception. And
Mm.
so we're trying to make a movement, a movement of love, a movement of presence that goes on.
Mm. Oh, and they're also remembering them, like you said, like
That's right.
you want to keep Darius
Right.
alive, that like
That's
his
right.
beauty, his energy, his birthday. So you're
That's
also
right.
remembering like this is their birthday and this is
That's
a
right.
really special day. I really love that. I love that a lot. And you also have a small group. I'm going to call it a small group. I don't know what you're
Mm-hmm.
calling it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You also have a group, a virtual
Mm-hmm.
group, coming up in August.
Mm-hmm.
What is that support?
Yeah. So we call it the Arise Circle. And so this is really just for our group of women who have experienced significant loss
Mm,
and have done the work of getting out of the acute phase of grief, right? There's
okay.
a point where you're super emotional and you just need to process. You need to do
Yeah.
the integration of old life, new life. But women who are on the other side of that and want to figure out, how do I create legacy out of this loss?
Mm.
Who really are wanting to turn pain into purpose. And so building this business for me has been one of the most healing things I can do. I get to say his name every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a website with his name all over it, right? It's so beautiful. And so
Oh,
we've really built kind of a 10-week framework to help women figure out where they are, what was important to
oh.
their person, what they want to be, and to create their purpose project out of it. How do I
Mm.
turn this pain into purpose? And so we're super excited about that. We're also doing training for organizations that want to
Wow.
show up better for their employees who are in grief.
Wow.
So we've built a framework, the presence framework. We're teaching leaders what it means to show up. 91% of the bereaved felt like they didn't get enough support at work.
Yeah.
You get 3.5 on average bereavement days. And that is whether you've lost a grandparent or a child, right? And so how do we help leaders understand when people come back into work, they're coming with all that they're carrying. And so
Yeah.
how can I show up better for them? So we're really just trying to create a movement of grief awareness, the value of presence, and helping people turn loss into legacy, which to me is the best way to honor love.
3.5 days. That's like at least one or two of those days is going to the funeral and the wake
That's
and
right.
everything
That's
anyway. So you have
right.
no time. I didn't
That's
know that.
right.
Oh God. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing all of your beautiful story and Darius's story and all of your beautiful knowledge and learned experience of grief. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Where can people follow up with you if they're
Yeah.
interested in any of these groups, these trainings, the timely present, like these presents,
Mhm. Mhm.
PRE, not the present
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
I just did a little wordplay. Didn't mean to. Sorry, everyone.
So our website is thetimelypresence.com. And we are on Instagram and Facebook too, The Timely Presence. And on LinkedIn, you can follow me. I'm trying to do a lot of awareness information campaigning around support, presence, what it means for people in loss. So I'm just Kelly Edmondson on LinkedIn.
Okay, last question. If you could go back and tell Kelly pre-Darius's death, that version of Kelly, any piece of information or advice, what would that be?
Slow down. Take the picture. Make the call. Do the thing. I think, it's the only thing I regret. He died January 3rd. That Christmas I didn't spend with him. Right. Wow. He lived in Ohio and I lived in Florida. I didn't spend that Christmas with him. And so memories matter. Yeah. So make them.
Thank you, Kelly.
And you will find your way out to the other side.
Oh, God. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Truly, your support and love is the foundation of this community and this podcast. If you find yourself in a season of life ready to explore your inner landscape deeper, or perhaps you feel like you've tried all the things and nothing has worked, here's your gentle invitation to come back home. Align and Embody is my signature coaching container that is created to explore our soma, our living wholeness. Perhaps the answers you seek truly do live within. You just need to learn the communication of your body. Align and Embody combines the 3 pillars of my business: human design, somatic breathwork, and cycle alignment. Head to the link in this description to learn more, or better yet, reach out on Instagram @_journey-to-well. I'd be honored to connect with you. Be well on this journey, my friend. Talk soon.